Hey, this is Jeff, and a while back I did a mathematical comparison of various aspects of Fallout 3 and Fallout New Vegas to determine objectively which was the better game. Since I recently reinstalled Fallout 4, I thought it might be interesting to see how it stacks up in the same format. I considered introducing a couple of important categories that I just didn't think of at the time, and retroactively scoring Fallout 3 and New Vegas, specifically music and relatability. However, both of those categories suffer from the same problem as the more controversial aspects of the original comparison. They're observational, but not measurable, and therefore not totally objective. I'll talk about them in a footnote, but in the end, even though they're important categories, I decided not to use them for scoring. Not only that, but I improved the methodology and ranking criteria for the existing categories where the same criticism applied. Let's dive in. The previous comparison started with graphics. Fallout 3 and New Vegas both used the same Gamebryo engine, 3D models with the same number of polygons, and textures with the same resolution. Fallout 3 had an edge in performance, scoring a higher average frame rate on the same hardware, while New Vegas had an edge in visual design because it uses a larger number of colors in its environment lighting and object textures. Comparing Fallout 4 to those games might seem unfair because it was designed for newer hardware, but on the same benchmark system, it unsurprisingly runs at a much lower frame rate than Fallout 3, or even New Vegas. However, it indisputably has a more advanced graphics engine, higher poly models, higher resolution textures, and a system for rendering material properties that the older games didn't have at all. So in graphics overall, Fallout 4 wins. The next thing we looked at was the companion system in those games, in two categories: companion interaction mechanics and the companion's degree of relevance to the protagonist's arc story. New Vegas won companion interaction mechanics because the number and variety of interaction mechanisms is higher. In addition to a higher raw count of companion dialogue lines, the loyalty quests, companion perks, and companion wheel don't exist in Fallout 3. Fallout 4 takes that one step further by giving you the ability to click on something in the environment and instruct a follower to interact with it, whether it's pick a lock, attack an enemy, or whatever. Plus, it adds yet another type of interaction, arguably the most important of all, the option to sleep with more than half of them. It wins the companion system mechanics category. The most controversial category was the companion's relevance to the protagonist's arc story. I stand by my analysis, but I admit that's not a directly measurable characteristic for scoring purposes. So I'm replacing it with a much simpler and more objective metric. Fallout 3 and New Vegas each have 8 potential companions. Fallout 4 has 13, 60% more. Fallout 4 wins by a large margin there. Also controversial was the faction system ranking, for similar reasons. So again, I've simplified the scoring so it's directly measurable and objective. Fallout 3 only has one faction ending, or 1.5 if you count nuking the Citadel in the Broken Steel DLC. New Vegas and Fallout 4 each have 4 different faction-aligned endings, so that's a tie. And finally, the DLC. Another controversial category, and another update to the methodology. Rather than ranking them by relevance to and integration with the base game, we'll just count them. Totally measurable and objective. Fallout 3 has 5 add-ons, New Vegas has 6, and Fallout 4 has 8. Fallout 4 wins the DLC category. Now, about the new categories I considered adding but didn't because they're not completely objective. All 3 games make heavy use of ambient music that's been around since the days of Fallout 1 and 2, so I would have limited the analysis to the main title themes and how well they perform their key role in setting the player's expectations for the game. The Fallout 3 theme is majestic and foreboding, like the devastated ruins of the nation's capital in which the game takes place. It sets the tone for the game that follows pretty well. Fallout New Vegas, with the twangy guitar incorporated into a variation on the previous Fallout theme, establishes both the atmosphere of the southwestern desert environment and the sense of dark humor that pervades the game. Also nicely done. But Fallout 4's theme is down-tempo, melodramatic, kind of bland, and you're guaranteed to hear a lot of it because the game takes so long to load. In short, it sets the player's expectations for the game with a degree of absolute perfection that the previous games gave a good effort but just can't match. Fallout 4 would win the music category if I was using it. Regarding the relatability of the protagonist and the premise of the game itself, In Fallout 3, you're the child of two of the Wasteland's greatest minds. You grow up in the middle of a nefarious experiment that's been going on since before the Great War, and end up saving the entire Wasteland from at least two of its greatest threats. Nobody can identify with that. In New Vegas, before the game even starts, you've created a new society and accidentally destroyed it, before being ambushed by gangsters and left for dead while trying to deliver a device that could save New Vegas from a war. You end up turning the tide of that war and securing the future of the Mojave by establishing the dominance of the faction whose philosophy you agree with, or just under your own authority. We're talking delusions of grandeur that make Fallout 3 look like small potatoes. In Fallout 4, you're just an average person who survives the apocalypse by blind luck, and you end up on a quest to find your kidnapped child, which, without spoilers, let's just say you don't exactly measure up to Liam Neeson. And who does? If you like watching Dr. Phil or spending hours doom-scrolling social media, it makes you feel right at home. Fallout 4 would be the clear winner there. But again, that's not directly measurable, therefore we're not using it. So, tallying up the scores for the ones that are measurable, Fallout 4 wins every category except factions, where it tied with New Vegas. I was absolutely not expecting this, but you can't argue with math and objective measurements. Fallout 4's hands down the best game of the three. And before you hit send on that hate mail, check the date. As always, thanks for watching, happy April Fool's Day, and I'll see you soon.